Gosh, pinch me.
Yeah, something wrong.
I'm not touching this.
February 23rd, 2015, study session, Edgar County Board.
Committee reports. Jeff?
Airport farm leases are in process. Talked to Brad a little bit this morning. We're gonna talk some more here in a little while. Been working with Lisa on all of the T-hanger leases and everything. We're all set except for John Girth of Clinton. They haven't heard a word from him, but that's what we're down to, in getting all those issues resolved. Okay?
He has a plane out there. Does he have a plane?
Yeah, he has a T-hanger. And I was out there this morning and went over things. As far as the med for the ship, I'm sorry, are there any questions on those two issues? Okay, as far as medical for prisoners that are taken to the emergency room. Mark, as you know, the sheriff and I met with Mark after we met with the hospital, and they presented they'd like some help with some of those issues. And they gave us a list, and some of on the list were not correct. We've shipped them back the list so that they can see where Jeff's made a mistake or they've made a mistake, so that we can, if we do get a mechanism set up for them to be able to bill us, then we're sure, and we've got a system set up that's gonna be accurate for the billing, okay?
Do you have off the top of your head a money figure on that mistake?
No, I don't. Jeff has that, but it was better than half of what they wanted. But regardless of that fact, we are collecting, and then we met with Mark, and he was going to check, and you see every month that we get current fund balances, and Don presents us with a list like this. And on this list is number 841 and 847, and that's a fund for county jail medical cost funds. Every time there's a conviction, a prisoner or a convictee has to put in $10 into that fund. That fund is always growing, whether they have medical needs or not. It constantly grows. For example, last month it was $15,177, and a year ago it was $12,213. I mean, it's not great growth, but it is growing. So we met with him last week, meaning Mark, the state's attorney, and he gave us an updated version of the law that governs what medical expenses we're supposed to have for the prisoners. And this fund was set up to augment our costs. So effective July 26, 2010, that fund was set up, and since that time we've collected roughly $15,100 some dollars. We have had some things come out of there for the hospital at times, but we really have no resolution that's set up to do that. So the state's attorney is going to get a resolution together. We're going to meet back with the hospital people on the 13th, and we're going to try to work things out. I've already told them that we probably can't go back and start doing it. It's only a forward thing. They understand that. And then we'll bring it to the board. Mark will lay it out for you so you understand it, if you have any questions. And then we'll pass that resolution. We'll have a mechanism set up where the hospital bills us and the funds will come directly out of that, okay? As the law intended.
Now, while you're doing that,
Yes, sir?
is this the place that we need to insert language that spells out specifically that the city is required? They'll come in, and just so you guys all know, and the way they used to do it is they'd bring somebody in and dump them, and the minute they walk through that door, they're ours. When in reality, the rule, and I don't know whether it's a written rule or an unwritten rule or an agreement, if the city is arresting somebody and that individual gets hurt, or that individual's sick, or whatever, then the city goes out and gets some medical attention first, then brings them to the jail.
That's more of a question, and Jeff and the state's attorney talked about that, and there's a way that you can, if you do it in a certain order, that protects the county more.
Right.
And he can speak to you, and I'll ask him about that. Additionally, we did discuss, like if you know there's a guy out there having a heart attack, halfway through every incarceration.
Yes.
Jeff wanted to know whether he could say, give him that test, you know, the thing where you drop his hand on his face, and if he doesn't hit his face, then they're, and I'm to go to Rita, and I've got a meeting with Rita to ask how our insurance wants us to handle that. In other words, all it would take is for us to go, oh, you're not having a heart attack, and then we have a heart attack,
Right.
and it's not really funny,
Right.
and then we're involved in a major deal again. So, the state's attorney and the sheriff wanted to know what our liability carrier had to say about issues about who should be making what decision. My guess is that they're gonna go take them to the hospital. But, and that's what but we wanted to, Jeff said it's very frustrating over the years seeing folks, you know, they got one guy that has a heart attack every time he's there, so, you know, it's,
Well, he's thinking, using that as leverage, maybe get out earlier, get a furlough or
They
whatever.
like to have
well,
vacation.
and that's not a really, I mean, there's other examples of that.
Right.
So we need to have a mechanism to do it. We need to have an agreement on how it's gonna be handled and verified. And that's what we're trying to get together, and then we'll answer your question.
Another question I've got, and you may already know the answer to this, but maybe it's just been assumed all these years. Is the city somewhat responsible for a city arrest as far as their health goes? In other words, if the city goes out here and works up a case and arrests a guy and brings him in and incarcerates him in the county, that's a city arrest, it's a city case. But we're still obligated as the county to take over, at that point, that's all our expense. Well, is there a way?
No.
I was talking to a lady that runs a major hospital over in Indiana, and she said, I explained our situation, and she said, a lot of times they've gotten to where, when they bring them in, they haven't booked them on it. Now, this is if you
That's
bring
what I'm
them
talking-
in, you get them taken care of first, because they're still covered under Medicare or whatever insurance.
Right.
Then once they've got them fixed up or whatever, then you take them in.
Right.
And
Is that what they do now? Or,
Most of the time.
Yeah, that's what you want to do.
alright.
Right.
that's what Jeff was talking
Okay.
about with the state's attorney in the order in which you process them.
Yeah,
Right.
most city police are, the person's brought to the emergency room before they are booked into the jail. Very seldom do they come from the jail to the emergency room.
Anyway, we are attending to the detail, and, you know, the state's attorney's involved, Ollie's involved, so we're.
Yeah, but Dan, not to interrupt you, but Dan, who gets the bill?
I
That's,
don't know.
see, that's
That's
the
not our
thing. Right.
Well, at any rate, you know, there's another thing we've got to
Not
make
our
sure
problem at that point.
we nail down the percentage of the bill for this area, because it talks specifically about coding and a percentage of the bill, so those are the type of things we're gonna.
But just so we're clear, they're not asking for that $200,000.
Oh, no.
That was,
No,
okay,
no.
prior.
They will give us a.
And they understand that it's probably gonna be, whenever we pass this resolution, it'll be from there on out
Okay.
anyway.
All right.
We just gotta make sure that if we're billed for somebody, that they've been incarcerated and they are in our custody, okay?
Okay.
And then, yes, sir.
Go ahead. Okay.
No, I'm
On
just
that
rambling.
847, on that county medical, county jail medical cost, are there other things that come out of there that we've had come out in the past that aren't really this, that we have to be concerned that?
Right,
not
we're gonna
getting
have
in?
to stop taking other things out of there.
What's
We
Ruth
have
Bonham get
just-
paid out of, yeah?
I'm sorry.
What's Ruth Bonham get, the nurse?
She should be paid out of the line item in Fund 100
Okay.
and under sheriff's.
That's just-
Right. And it's not much, and I'm sure it was certainly, there was no malice when they pulled out 20 here and 30 here. We've just gotta, luckily, we're clarifying that fund and getting to the bottom of it, and we'll do it right, okay?
Thanks.
And I think that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Andy? Well, we took our tour of some of the buildings. And there's, I guess the biggest issue we have to look at is courthouse, the roof on the courthouse. I think something that needs real quick attention is have you seen the flue on the furnace of the courthouse as you get close to the ceiling, or close to the roof?
No, I didn't. What did go up there?
Got a big leak, got a pretty good sizable leak there, and the bottom of the flue pipe is actually rusted out.
Rusted.
It's rusted.
Is it rusted or rusted out?
No, it's rusted out.
Oh, okay.
That could be dangerous.
It could be dangerous. So, I'm not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were only able to see it up there in the attic.
Did you
It
go?
may be-
You didn't go.
No, I didn't
You
go
were
up there,
gone.
but-
You saw it, didn't you? Rusted out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty serious.
Like holes.
For the whole bottom. And
In the attic or about outside?
it's right as it gets to approaching the roof.
If you went up into what they thought was the old jury room at one
Mhm.
time, that back way up,
Right.
you know, how that comes up that back way for, because we went in the judge's chambers too. You know, and all that, as it comes up the back, right? I'm stating it right, aren't I,
Yep.
Randy? Right where it makes that big turn to go up.
It
Got
goes
it
up
now?
to the roof, it's rusted
You better
out.
get some carbon monoxide detectors
Well,
in there.
It's not that serious, but it's serious, it's there, but that pipe's way too big for the furnace that they've got now, and that's one of the reasons why it's condensating and rusting, but the amount of carbon monoxide that would come out of there would be dissipated in that big attic.
I see, okay.
But,
That's why we have the
But it
holes in
needs
the
to be
roof.
fixed.
That's why we
Many
decided why
holes
we
are
kept
in
the
the
holes
roof,
in
it's
the
gonna
roof.
get out,
Yeah.
so
but still needs attention.
it definitely needs attention. Kinda scares you a little bit when it's as cold as it is, and
Running
if you drive by there and look, you can see all kinds of moisture condensating on top of the roof.
Mhm.
Monstrous icicles and it's leaking, and anyway, I've got a guy coming, Friday morning. The one guy that's a slate metal, he's gonna take a look at it, and I noticed on a couple of these Midland Engineering is one that I had contacted. The guy emailed me, he said he'd call me, but he hadn't called me yet, but, I don't know, I have no idea what it costs to fix, I mean, there, quite a few holes in the roof. You can see light out quite a few places up there. So hopefully Friday morning, or he'll look at it. I don't know when he'll give me an idea of what, we get an idea of what it costs to fix that. I did get, so that's what, you know, as soon as I find something out, I'll get back on what the roof on the courthouse.
This guy that's coming, he's just looking at the roof, it's not for the
Furnace.
furnace.
Well, yeah, I
Both.
set that up a couple weeks ago, I just
Okay.
found out last week about the furnace.
Okay.
I don't, if anybody's, I mean, that's not something a normal person doing
Right, that's in
furnace work would do, that's metal fabrication of some
Okay.
sort,
welding.
I suppose. I don't know who does that.
Ben, is there a way to get a sleeve down inside of it, maybe save us money
No,
that
I
way?
think I think the welding on the outside, based on what, it would probably be easier than the sleeve
Okay.
inside.
I mean, at this point, I think the thing to do, because it really all needs replaced, don't you think? I mean, you've seen it, right?
Yes.
I mean, and like you said, it's too big, that's probably what's caused the pipe to do what it's done. I suppose at this point, patch it, or wait till it gets
No,
something
I'd
out and
say,
replace the whole
I'd say
thing.
patch it.
Okay.
Is that kind of a board you can take out the side, Ben, and exhaust it out the side rather than have to go all the way
No,
over the,
no, that's the,
it's old?
yes, well, no, it's fairly new, but it's not one that's a forced exhaust.
You can't put it in plastic and take it outside, okay.
So is this something like Hornbrook or a local person could probably do?
Yeah.
I would guess,
Well, could you
Yeah, I'll get a hold of Larry.
get a hold of Larry and see if he can
See if
take a
he
look
can get
at
up
it?
there and fix
Patch
it.
it, right, yeah.
At least make it where it's not, I mean, is it dangerous? No, not really, but it needs to be fixed pretty quick.
Okay, just get a hold of Larry and see if he can take a look at it, if not, another local, contractor that can, welder,
Yeah, I don't know, well, Larry'd be the best one.
he does good work.
Good, yeah, he does. I know we went, I mean, I'll just go through some of what we did on our tour. I know on the treasurer's office, that flashing all along, it runs all along that, what building is that, it's next to it. It's H&R Block right now, I don't know who owns that building, but probably, given this, in the spring, someone needs to get along there and flash that. Cause he had some leaks just the other, like a week ago or something. Bob got up and patched it, but you can see where it's leaked they've got water spots all along that there, so
snow melting and seeps and.
And it probably just over time is separated, so that's something that needs to be looked at. The jail I had, they were having trouble getting heat to the top floor in the jail, and they've got some, space heaters, like, on each floor. Did you use those when you were there? The gas space
The
heaters?
ones up, yeah.
The hanging ones?
Yeah.
Well, no one,
Gosh, those have been there since,
Mhm.
That's what I said,
Our
because,
time.
because the other
Since
things
the
don't work.
60s.
so I got 2 of them running. I had Parish Refrigeration, or
Yeah, put
and
me in.
heating
That's
came
mine.
in and got 2 of them working.
I helped put them in,
Oh, okay.
Johnson's put them in.
Oh,
okay.
you helped put those in?
The space heaters up
Okay.
there.
He was 12, it was the only.
Well, wasn't, yeah, I wasn't, I was.
Child labor.
He was in his teens.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's been used for years up there. So he's got 2 of them working.
That should have helped out a lot.
Oh, he said
Day
actually,
and night should be.
he said they had the one on the top floor and it got too hot
That's
up
what I
there.
was gonna say.
So, but they're thermostat controlled, so anyway, it takes, so they got heat up in that part of it now. Other than that, I still need to do some research to find out where we need to spend some things, certainly at the courthouse and stuff, but that's it right now.
I think you've got enough there to eliminate your budget.
I know it.
Hasn't got one.
Huh?
Department yet, has it?
No.
Andy and I, after taking that tour, we're looking at ways that we can increase our revenue flow.
So, like a lemonade stand or something out there?
Oh,
We're gonna have to come up with something, like,
Oh, my.
I have a feeling the roof on the courthouse is gonna be phenomenal,
Oh, I haven't had you.
so. Anyway,
How much do you anticipate phenomenal?
A
Couple
lot.
100,000,
huh?
couple 100,000.
Oh, you got,
I think that would be, I think you'd be dreaming a couple
yeah,
hundred thousand, really.
you got the scaffolding put up.
No,
I don't know, that's why I say I'm hoping that, once I get an estimate from this guy, we've got a point to go from at that. I mean, what they spent, how much was that project when they did the
Bucket
tower?
of white latex.
The $1,000,002, wasn't it?
Was it 1,000,002?
The tower, what was the tower, man, $1,000,002?
1.1,
Oh,
Pretty close.
mhm.
a little over 1.1.
And it would not surprise me if this wouldn't be that much.
I know, it wouldn't me either.
The only thing is, as we looked at it, it looked like where the holes were those really in the tile part?
Yeah,
But we don't know
I
how
think
much,
you're
if
gonna
there's
have-
anything above that, whether that's good, that or not, that metal, that's the problem.
I
You
I
know,
think
we
you're-
just need somebody to look at it.
think you're talking about replacing the metal. I mean, you don't go putting a 100-year roof on a 10-year metal. I mean, what your life of your metal is at this point.
well, also your superstructure up there, I mean, we can look at it up there and as laymen's and say, oh, that looks good. How do we, that's been there for 100 years, all that lumber and stuff up there. How do you know whether it's?
We've had a non-layman look at it. Arnie Johnson,
Oh.
he's an engineer, but Wes Jennings is also originally from Paris. In fact, he was down looking at the building this
Did
Saturday.
he come in?
That's not dimensional lumber.
Yeah. But when they did
It's a whole
the,
rough cut, whatever.
when they did the tower,
It's probably
they actually
harder
had
than hell.
sensors
Yeah.
to sense
So it's in
more
good
shit
shape.
and
Drill
wood and all
bolt
this.
now.
It's in pretty good shape.
No nail.
He thought, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
I know.
I didn't see anything.
These
There's a couple of beams that had some white, looked like some dry rot on them a
Mhm.
couple places, but other than that, I thought it looked pretty good shape.
Did you meet with Arnie Saturday?
No, I did not. I was in the basement working on a boiler, and when he called me and said, oh, what's it?
Did someone meet with him?
Yes,
Okay.
Bob Wilson met with him.
Okay.
Bob was there doing the snow and
Mhm.
met with him and took him in, and
He said Mark Kivity was there.
well,
So I'm gonna
they're
get hold of-
friends, so yeah.
I wanna get a hold of
That's
Mark.
not a
and
bad person to have.
see- No, that's
No.
not. He'd be a great one to
Yes,
have
it would
there.
be.
So I wanna get a hold of Mark and see what, this, guy, what's his name, Steve, or
Arnie Johnson.
Arnie Johnson is gonna write up a report and send it to us of what needs. He did mention somewhere a beam, and I just talked to Bob real briefly
Mhm.
about that, a beam that's sitting on I don't know where it says 18, whatever the year is, there's a beam behind there up in the ceiling that needs to be replaced. Does anybody?
So reinforcing,
Yeah, he said at one point he thought Jake Payne was supposed to
yeah.
do that, and it's never been done, so
I
needs,
think,
needs to be done.
I've got the specs on what he recommended doing.
Okay. Do we gonna get a hold of Jake again? All right.
Anything else?
No.
Dan?
Not much, animal shelter, they've adopted out quite a few dogs, so I think we're down maybe 4 or 5 dogs out there, which is unusual. I have talked to a couple of people on getting specs for the heating and cooling system at the Edgar County Health Department building. And they're supposed to give me some names and contact the people this week, so I'll have more information probably the next workshop, so. That's
Can
about
I
it.
suggest that, it's just, I'm sure you'll do this, but no matter what you think the bid's gonna be, look how we did at the airport by continuing to get bids.
Mhm.
So even if it's under the 30,
It won't be.
it won't be, but anyway, it's just a good
Oh, yeah.
thing to do.
I'll get the specs first and.
No, I understand.
work on the bid.
And I'm not trying to interfere, I just,
How do you go about putting the specs out for bid? Do you go by newspaper or?
Yes.
Okay.
Put it in the paper and have a place where they can pick it up.
Augie, whenever you get the chance, when you get to that point,
Okay.
just see Mr. Griffin over there and he takes care of everything for you,
All right.
okay?
Now, is that,
He has the knowledge and the
Oh, good.
technology.
I'm glad of
is
that.
that the only way you do it? Is advertise it, or is no problem in contacting people, is there?
Oh,
No,
no,
no.
No, and if it's way under, like our bid was way under, you can do it a little less formally, but it sounds like you're gonna be knocking several
Or if
doors.
it's more specialized, like a slate roof or something like that, that we got it, then that's only certain people can do that.
But you still have to.
I know you have to put it in the paper, but
Right.
still,
Right.
there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone call and calling the guy in Missouri and saying, hey,
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you. Mike?
not that I can think of unless somebody's got questions.
Questions about what?
Yeah. I really want some questions.
Inquiring minds want to know, I guess. I want to know about
We'd have
it.
to assume you had the answers.
Doesn't have to be about.
But don't ever assume I've got answers. I don't necessarily have answers, but I get lots of questions from our chairman about what the county board, or what the county engineer's doing, and because I don't know. But I would challenge anyone in this room that if they want to, tag around with him and ask, they're more than welcome to.
You wouldn't be offended, you're saying?
Oh, I would not be offended at all. As a matter of fact, I would welcome the help if somebody wants to go in there and have him explain stuff to them.
Carl? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that opinion.
Last week, we had a sheriff's committee meeting. The three of us met with the sheriff. A very good meeting. Had an open dialogue and went real well. And I was very happy with the way it proceeded. Some of the things we talked about cars, purchasing cars. I think he's got 16,000 something in his budget. He talked about several of the cars have 180,000+ miles on them. We talked about different options of leasing, just different options, and he's going to look into some of the different options, how much he can buy some of the cars for, and report back with us. He talked about personnel. I think he's pretty well got everything fully staffed, from what he said,
Either that or in school.
Right. Well, the jail, one jailer, correctional officer, I think she's back out now, but
Okay.
he's got, you know, the full correctional officers up. You know, he hired 2 dispatchers, they're in training. I think he's on the deputies, road deputies, he's got them fully staffed back to where it was. We talked about the $25,000 grant. We talked about different options on how we were gonna use the money. Some of the things that came up was spending money on helping fix the jail. Another thing was these computers for the cars. I think it was like $1,000 per car. He talked about body cameras for the deputies. We talked about all those different options, and in the end, we talked about using other funding sources for body cameras and getting the computers put in the car. And in the end, we decided the $25,000 grant, we're gonna apply for it using all the money towards repairs for the jail. And Jeff is gonna contact Rob and get that paperwork done. And so we're proceeding with that. If I forget anything, you guys chime in.
Doing great.
The medical license application that was brought up by some people here a couple weeks ago. Nanette, the 911 coordinator, was working with the sheriff, and they got the paperwork filled out, and the sheriff sent that off because it's actually the sheriff's responsibility, since he's operating the dispatch center and they're his employees. He's the one that sent the application off to get approved, and that's been sent off, and they'll have to hear back, waiting to hear back from the people on that. Another thing that he's talked about, that he's applied for a grant to a foundation for a new squad car. This is a grant for next year, 2016. He applied for it, and I guess he was approved for a K9 vehicle. It includes car, radio, everything to equip the car, buying the dog, and training for the dog. We had discussion.
About 100,000 altogether, wasn't it?
I think you said 80 to 90,000, roughly, is what the total cost of that. He's applied for it, and we had some discussion, and he's going to see how things go on that before a final decision's made on it.
He hasn't accepted it.
Right. Yeah, he's applied for it, and they said, you can have, but nothing's been done this
That's for next year though, right?
2016.
He
Yes.
also asked him to look into maintenance, if there was any maintenance
Right,
that might come with that on an annual basis.
right,
We get that ironed out so that we don't have that thing come back to bite us like we did on the last
right.
2 cases.
Right, we
This
talked
is
about
Warren
that.
Buffett's son, who has desired to give this to every county other than Cook County in downstate Illinois. So he's trying to make it available through personal donations.
And we're 18th on the list for next year.
Yeah.
so.
That might be a possibility,
Right.
And he does have 1 or 2 deputies that are interested in that.
Right. And it's not the previous.
Newer deputies.
Yeah, it's not the 2 previous cannon operators.
Correct.
And there was some what would you term some lively discussion about it.
Well, I mean, obviously there's concerns.
Yeah, absolutely, and I didn't realize it was. To me, it's a simple thing. The operator, the K9 operator, goes home and he goes home an hour before quitting time and takes care of all his dog stuff and goes off the air at regular time and it's taken care of.
I think one thing that should be said, Carl, is that they're tending more towards the body cameras first and versus the computers.
Yes.
And the funds we're talking about using them from, or to purchase both the computers and the body cams, are funds that have accumulated for the past year. So, I mean, we're not, and weren't used. So we're in pretty good shape, and it certainly doesn't deplete any of those funds.
And that wasn't a whole lot of money, was it? It's like-
2,700 for the body cams, and we were looking for 6,000 to 8,000 on the computers, depending on how many we get. And that's to hook up, he's already got the computers, it's to hook them up and get them operating correctly.
Yeah, those were a donation from an insurance company.
Yeah, just so everybody's on the same page with
And
it.
just so everybody else is on, the reason that it's mandated now that these deputies have to do their accident reports and a lot of other stuff through that onboard computer. So there's no more filling out on a piece of paper and handing it in like we used to in the old days. So, and it's taken a lot of time to do that. Like Jeff said, like a deer accident now, it takes 2 hours and something to do. So what we're trying to do is, even because they're mandating it and IDOT's mandating it, that's something we need to be in compliance with. It's not just something fancy to have to talk to each other on. It's pretty much gonna have to be in there, so.
Well, and it's gonna help us in our utilization of staff, I believe.
You say they mandate it, when does that kick in?
Well, I think it was the first of the year it kicked
So
in.
they should already be in?
What they have to do now
It's
is.
gotta be sent electronically.
Yes, they take a regular paper report, and then they go into the jail and sit down and type it into
Put it all
the jail
in.
computer.
Okay.
Whereas if they were in the field, it's,
It's
Yeah,
done and then you
right.
don't.
And another nice thing about that too, they can take a picture, put it right in there, and it's real time. It's a way to go.
yeah, we can take the body cams and.
How many of
record,
those computers was
Plug
there?
them in.
I think he's got 10 now that were given to
In
him.
other words, your
I think there was
paperwork's
8,
done.
but he's maybe only gonna put them in 6 cars,
Okay,
possibly.
maybe it
Yeah.
was.
And
But
so
yeah,
then you'd also, I mean, it's a great idea and everything, but you're also gonna have, basically a card that's gonna be able to transmit, obviously, internet all over the place. So you, I mean, just so you know, when you're talking about budgets and stuff, that's gonna be a monthly assessment.
Right.
Probably for each one of those that you
There
have.
it is.
It's
It is.
$22.
$22.
That's pretty darn cheap.
Yeah,
$22 for their full internet access?
For each one of them?
that's
Yeah,
what he
is that
said,
for each one?
22.
Wow, that's sweet.
and what's nice about it is instead of calling the dispatcher and having her
Oh,
run
yeah.
28s or background or what, they can do a lot of that from the car. And they can
That's
communicate
through the
privileged
state.
information over that too, that they don't want necessarily put out over the air. In the old days.
That's, I guess I was wondering if the state had something like that that was interconnected either with state
Oh,
police
yeah,
or
it's all,
local.
that's who you're running off of.
That's what I
is the
mean,
state
but
power.
even the internet and is it like a closed circuit, do we know? I'm just curious.
I don't know the
Okay.
details on that.
I'll ask you.
I don't know, we need to find that out.
No, we probably know it's more curiosity
Anyway,
question than anything
It was
else.
a real good meeting, it really
Right,
was.
And one thing we had concerns talking about the canine, not so much the need for the canine, it was just the ongoing costs involved with it for the, for the future for us, that was a big concern.
And what it was gonna
upfront
net us.
Written agreement, understanding, and consistently taking care of it.
Right.
One other thing too that you didn't, unless you were going to mention it, I should have
No.
showed you. We've discovered that he has an extra, he's got a jail administrator. And Carl and Jeff talked about the figures and we're pretty close. I mean, Jeff put all the funds together. I'll let you explain it, because I'm
Well,
not.
Carl did too. I mean, we put it together. What Carl and I are most concerned about is that the year-end expenses, when people cash in their time, all that, and the next thing you know, you're talking 10, 15, 20 grand on top of the budget for the last 2 payrolls, because people are turning in time and collecting this and collecting that, per union agreement. I mean, it's something. So I don't know whether he was that aware of that, but we're gonna have to continue to monitor what he's doing, and he appreciates that. We also have, he's used very, very, very little of his part-time, I think only 8%, which kind of tends to offset some of his overtime. And he did express real concern about overtime, and he's gone through this first couple of months of training and hiring and so forth, and hopefully that will become less of an issue. But, you know, if just on paper, it's within a few grand of being right, but we just are concerned because
Right.
stuff just, at the end of the year, just gets out of hand. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yes.
you know, the concern is that, you know, the way things are, it's very well be going over his budget on labor.
Right.
And another thing is, you know, his secretary, you know, she's gonna retire sometime this year. I don't know whether she's gave a definite time, but, you know, he's gonna
I
be
thought
hired.
October, but man.
Well, but anyway, he's talking about hiring someone and training for maybe 6 months, and that's a added expense that is not budgeted, so.
See, that's 10 grand.
Right,
I mean, roughly.
but when you look at that plus everything else, you know, he's
Yeah.
got to
It
be.
doesn't take very long and you're
You're-
30, 40 grand in the hole.
Yeah, so
30 grand here, 40 grand there, adds up some real money, doesn't it?
so we.
Yes, Edgar.
Yeah.
We had the discussion, you know, everybody's aware of it, and, you know, we'll kind of keep an eye on it. So, that's all I had.
What were you gonna talk about, union?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, but simply, it's coming up. We've got letters from both. Augie, do you have the letters to give to Carl, I assume? I did ask Rita, I hope you don't mind, since I've been talking to Rita so much. I did, and I also talked to Augie, we've submitted the current contracts to everybody that needs to see them to give us input. Bushu, Rita, and so forth, so that we have other eyes that look at them first so that they can give us some suggestions.
And specifically, which ones are up?
The road deputy's contract is up at the end of this year, and also the dispatcher's, correction officers is up, so they both have evidently sent us letters.
Dated
saying they
February
wanna-
14th, yeah.
Are the dispatchers and correctional,
Jailers and dispatchers.
what's
Together.
that?
Jailers and dispatchers.
We have two separate contracts.
And
One's
then
for the road
deputies.
deputies, and one is, the other contract is for dispatchers and correctional officers. They're from the same, what, fraternal order of police? or
Yes.
what?
FOP.
So they've got different
Right. So,
agents or.
am I correct in guessing in that one time we call jailers, one time we call correctional officers, those are the same
Yes.
people?
Right.
Are they?
Right.
Okay,
Jailers, dispatchers, what I call it.
okay, yeah, and then somebody else said, I just want to make sure I'm on the same. Okay.
Anything else?
Anything on 911? Been pretty quiet lately, so- which is all right.
No, not aware of anything. Other than, you know, they've got the, you know, obviously she's down there, and her and Jeff are working very closely on everything, and seems that things are going a lot better.
Always have one question. Who is actually responsible for the dispatchers? Is it Annette or is it?
The sheriff.
Okay. Yeah, I see Mike is always
Yeah,
a
the sheriff
discrepancy
is,
on that. So.
yeah, there's an agreement that the sheriff will answer it, and it's his employees, and it's his responsibility to see that it's answered properly and everything is done. But, you know, now that Nanette's back there, they're working together,
Very good.
and everything's going,
I'm not sure the proper term is delegation, but he has.
right.
Right.
Okay.
The way he ensures all that is he gets Nanette to do it for him.
Well, that's
But they're,
what she
but
should-
then,
they should- She should be doing some of that. That was my concern when she was up at the courthouse.
I mean, in the, previous to that, she always was heavily involved.
Right.
And then there for 4 years,
Yeah.
basically was,
Right.
We need to move forward.
Okay.
right,
Right.
and it's going real well.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
That's it.
Alan's got a lot of notes.
Alan's got a lot of
We're gonna
stuff.
be here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gosh.
questions for everyone you got.
Not me.
Basically, we had a meeting earlier this past week with Travis Bushu, our insurance and resource person, and talked about different items concerning the insurance that maybe people had had even last year. We'd also I'd sent around information to everybody when it was gonna be held, trying to make sure everybody who wanted to be there could be there, if they had questions, et cetera. Really didn't have any questions ahead of time whatsoever, but several people were here that was in here, and they had questions there. Yeah, that was like, yeah.
You're never gonna let us forget that.
I'm
are
not.
you? No,
Whenever I
no.
hear people, I won't say it this way in front of people, that whine and complain, I'll put it that way. Then if there's something there, then they ought to be able to write it down so that people can look at it and ask about it. So, yeah, now I'm done, Mike.
Okay.
No, but also regarding flow of information, that's a concern, how it goes back and forth between the various agencies that we have in the county and our advisor, so to speak. He also talked a lot about Affordable Care Act and the federal regulations that go along with that. And then also the possibility of trying to make sure that maybe we see him, or somebody from the county sees him about once a month, just maybe as updates or if questions come up. And then when we were on our tour, they said that over in Treasurer's office, because that's got a big impact on this, about whether people are full-time equivalent, not full-time equivalent, the 30 hours a week, the 130 hours a month, what the snapshots are all on that. And Pam, if I'm understanding, said that you and Travis went over there, that type of stuff? Okay, so that's the first start. The big thing will be to make sure, I think from our standpoint as a county board, that we get that information out to our elected officials and department heads and say, here's what the federal law is. And try to persuade, coerce, whatever it takes to make sure that that's done. Because I don't want us to be behind the 8 ball as a county board. Yes.
To that end, and we never got a chance to talk after that, but when we went over there, we didn't change anything. Nothing was changed. It was simply that Travis collected some information about what was being done in several of the offices. Then he will get back to the board as a clearinghouse and let us know what probably would work best, and we can work with our staffs, like in the treasurer's office, or in Augie's office, or wherever it happens to be.
Right, and Andy and I talked with him as insurance committee crew too, with Pam for quite a bit too, as far as.
She was gonna check to see about whether we can modify, and we have a software programmer.
Right.
And I'm sure they're aware of the 1095s or
Right.
93s or whatever
Both
they
are.
are.
Yeah.
So we need to get all that plugged in, because right now, for example, we're on 26 months, or 26 payrolls versus 24. So in order to come up with 130, Pam goes, boy, that's gonna take you. But if we can plug that into a program, and it breaks it right out. And
I
gives
can't
us-
imagine that that's not an
Yeah,
option on a program. at
It's
this
an
point.
option on
Right.
mine, so I don't know
Yeah.
why it wouldn't be an option on hers, so.
Exactly.
I mean, I think we just gotta identify these questions, make sure we take care of them, and give it everybody on the same page,
And have
not
follow-up
freak
with it.
everybody.
Follow up.
And have follow-up.
Right.
Because that's what it is, because the other issue is maybe for him to also give us more specifics on the snapshots. You know, this is like the idea that we should have been doing this for the last year, quite honestly. Well, this year, definitely, and how to get that started, get it going. I'm not sure, we don't really have a central point, because it is an interplay with county clerk's office, county treasurer's office, our insurance advisor, and it's gonna, it may even filter out, I think, out into public health. It's gonna be animal, it's gonna be everything under the sun,
And I think it's all gonna be on the computer, you're gonna have to list what everybody, you're gonna even have to put what their lunch hour was, even if you're,
Public health seems to be entity by itself, right, more or less.
except
that
we
it
do
always.
your payroll.
Yeah,
I
see, it
know
all
that,
comes
but other than
back.
that, it
Pay
seems
your
everything
bills.
is-
Right.
is in that one area. but it
And pay
doesn't-
your bills.
It doesn't come together. It's like no
For federal.
communication.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, and that's why the idea, I think we have to be really good about, not just the office holders,
Right.
but the department heads are saying, I think our office holders will realize, okay, this is kind of what we need, this is a federal reg, but to get back to maybe some of our, for lack of a better term, ancillary divisions, and say, if we're doing this for you, it's gonna come back to us as a county, and I'm just saying, for us as a county, I'd like to make sure that we as a county board get that out to all of our people. And then part of that is on their shoulders, the
I
way I
think,
look at it.
But
John
we're
McNair's,
responsible for letting them know that we need that
And
hourly
you know what,
information.
and we tried to do that last year already, Ben, so I don't know what the next step is, other than just
Yes.
more communication and follow-up.
Follow up, see that they're.
There was one thing I asked Mushu, was that were we too late? No, we're fine, and as long as we get things done and the Ts crossed and the Is dotted and everybody on board.
So, it was good, I mean, we were there for what, 2.5 hours, something like that, and so a lot of discussion took place.
John mentioned the last Edgar County Health Department meeting, he didn't like the way the finance, or like, it's set up, like the report we get every month, so I have a feeling that he's gonna ask for a change. It's very difficult to understand the finances out there.
Well, we don't give you your finance report. If you're getting a finance report,
Well, I know
it's being
coming from-
generated
yeah,
internally.
Right,
Yes.
right. But he
Okay.
doesn't, he thought there should be a better way of doing it, which I agree, because I don't understand anything about it.
Well, I have a question about Bushy when you're done with it.
Did you ask him this the other day or not? No, wait, Mike.
I did not ask him this because it would have totally embarrassed you if I had
Oh, I
asked
got
him.
it, go ahead.
Oh, okay, well, we're not into embarrassing anybody
No,
in this
we're-
That
room.
wouldn't bother me.
His face is getting
Look
red.
at him, look at him.
Look at
Is there a defibrillator? Have we got a defibrillator?
Yes, sir,
Well,
Mike.
do you think that we're getting value from Bushy this first year?
Myself, over the last 2 years, I think we're getting value from the standpoint of, I'm not sure in dollars amount, just because as he kind of explained, the number of people who are actually bidding on insurance policies now, especially in the health area, have just
Yeah.
gone down with the Affordable Care Act. But as far as knowing what these rules and regs are, I don't think we have anybody in the county that knows all that stuff or who really wants to know all that stuff in addition to their jobs. I mean, I think of somebody like an Augie and I think of like Donnie, they got enough stuff going on without trying to do
Well,
that.
what I'm trying to get at is, we voted to spend $30,000 on Bushy over 3 years. I think that's the right figure. And we're gonna have to he's gonna ask us for another 3-year contract in another year. If he's not doing I think I learned a lot of things that he wasn't doing first that I assumed he was. And now he's kind of been put on the spot, he's thinking, oh geez, they want us to do, like, for instance, it's gonna cost us $1,000 per 50,000 foot for an audit. I thought he was doing all that stuff. I thought he was keeping track of value and everything. And we're paying for the enhanced Bushy, by the way. I just wanna make
And
sure
for the
that,
full human resources.
right.
And that's why we always have to try to utilize those.
Right, that's
If we
what
don't-
I'm asking, if we're not, are we utilizing it?
I think we're getting better at that, Mike.
It's not his fault if we're not.
Right, I think we're getting better, just like when we've had these different issues come up as far as contracts. They're not gonna run our contract for us, but I think that's a good thing for them to look at all of our contracts, because that's part of what they can do, and say,
Right.
hey, are we doing everything right? Are we not asking the right questions?
He has to be careful because he's not an attorney,
It must have been
Right.
save us on health insurance.
Well, if we'd have just,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, I would hope that we would have had the good enough sense to say, no, we're not taking that. But I did appreciate the fact, as soon as they came out with, well, whatever it was last year, we're really not doing that. He immediately called and said, don't accept that. You need to basically discount all those bids or whatever bids you got and redo it. There's a difference between 17 and 6, that's huge. But I would hope we'd have thought of that anyways,
Yeah,
but
right.
if we
Yeah,
don't,
right,
that's a perfect example.
right.
The same way on the different programs, you can debate this all you want, I don't really care. I mean, we tried this, and it's a good thing to talk about, it's a good thing to look at. I'm not sure we don't get utilization almost out of this stuff coming up with Affordable Care Act
Right.
as much as anything else, because I don't know that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, Mike, like we've talked about before with all of you, we don't really have a central person.
What I took away
that
from
does
it,
that.
what I took away from it, Alan, was, why do we need to know it? I mean, it's one of
You
those
better
things.
know it.
Well, no, really, because it's just like the government says, you'll fill out this form, you'll fill out that form, and that's what we're gonna do, whether we know, I mean, we can spend dollars and months trying to figure out why we're having to do that. The fact is, we're gonna do it, and
Well, there's some things we should have been doing all the way along. Quite frankly, if you've got a person sitting down whatever office, and we can't produce a time record for them, that's a federal and a state violation of the law, labor laws.
Right.
Period. Has nothing to do with Affordable Care Act. So we're just not.
And I think that's one of the things that they have tried to tell us and say, like, look at this, everybody has to be documented on an hourly basis, for example. You know, sometimes we don't do those things, and sometimes we just don't know to do them. And like what I say, I think you try something like this. You try something like this for 2-3 years, whatever it was.
Oh, I'm not.
And then, no, what I'm saying is like,
criticizing that.
oh, you should, I think you do have to look at it, and that's what we should be doing. We should have an open, honest discussion about it, like we did the other day at that meeting, and say, hey, what are you doing for us? Now, in my mind, they never promised to come in and measure all of our buildings.
Okay.
In my mind, they never promised that, at all.
Well, in
My
my
premise
mind,
was, they're gonna get information from us. Now, the other side of that is, what types of questions should they ask and where should they go to get those? In my mind, they should be maybe more in depth about doing those, but then they're still only gonna be as good as those people
Information they give.
that we can give that information to. And sometimes that's not our people's fault.
Right.
They don't know those answers either. But I think that's where those questions come up, and that's how you find out
Well,
about
in my
it.
mind, it's like your personal agent at your home. You build onto your house, you accumulate a $500,000 jewelry collection from your, deceased aunt. Your local insurance agent, if he doesn't call you once in a while, hey, Alan, you got any new diamonds lately? So you follow what I'm saying? That's kind of what I thought Bouchard is. However they do it, they're aware that we're adequately insured. And
I agree, and Alan, I don't mean to disagree, I thought that they would double check us on a lot of things. I came out of those negotiations with them thinking that, no, they wouldn't give us a new appraisal on the building, but they sure as heck could make sure that what we had was being represented correctly. Whether that's measuring them but I thought there would be boots on the ground in this community looking, didn't you think so, Carl?
I did too.
I did.
And I don't think that's what we're getting, and that's what I told him.
or at least they come and say, hey, we don't have this, here's what's gonna cost to get it.
That would have really been a one-shot deal for them, and then they would have it in their records. The size of the buildings, the amount of rooms, and the things, and I didn't think they was going to, that was what they.
Well, and that's one of the reasons I think also to come back and say to Travis, like at least once a month, we'd like to have somebody in here. Just a physical thing, because sometimes that goes a long way, whether it's talking with Augie's office or Donnie's office or county highway. If somebody's physically there, periodically talking with somebody, I think that goes a long way toward helping, because you have questions, you don't feel that way. Again, I would go back and say, somewhere in our county, we've been at fault. I cannot believe we don't have specs for every one of our buildings that we own. I don't think that, that's where I disagree with you guys on it. I don't think they ever said they would come in
No, I don't
and,
think so either.
and do that, because a lot of what they would have, they're not necessarily gonna be the architects who have those things. I think that's a part of, somehow, some way, I'm not too sure
Again,
that we don't have.
That's what we need to receive the best insurance. The insurance needs that kind of information to give us the best bid.
So we need to hire somebody to do that.
Right, I guess,
And that's what I thought we were doing, we was getting somebody that was going to
Yeah,
be able
but
to
they're
present
not
a better.
architect- that's-
Hmm?
They're not, that should not be their job to get the specs, I don't think. They could hire somebody.
Well, that's good questions, all these are
Sure.
good questions to bring up
I
and talk
guess
about. Andy, yeah.
well, I guess, I wish they'd ask us what are we what are your building specs, what do we need to be looking at to bid an insurance to get insurance on these things. At least ask us what our building specs are, which I don't think,
Well,
we don't have anything on
in-
anything, do we? That you're aware of?
In defense of them, I didn't realize till at that meeting, just strictly as, my limited mental capacity, as you all understand, that if that courthouse blows down tomorrow, we're not replacing that stone for stone, painting for painting, solid oak, antique bench for bench. They're going to replace that courthouse with something that we can utilize for the public good, to hold court in, to have office holders in. It's not gonna be, because there's probably not enough money in Edgar County to rebuild that thing. Get the marble and in a roundabout way. I didn't realize it till that point that it's insured for X amount of dollars, and what we're gonna be able to put back is what we're gonna be able to put back for that amount of dollars. That's not replacement. And therefore, in their defense, what difference does it make if they got an architectural plan? If it blows down, we get a check for $15-20 million, we put a new
I
courthouse up and
wouldn't
that's
say
it.
an architectural plan.
Well, I know, but the inventory, how many typewriters, or how many computers, how many,
Maybe we didn't ask enough questions when we hired them, because it seems like everybody's got a different idea of what they.
Well,
But I think
That
that
what
was
our
a good question,
expectations
but I
are.
think that was a good question that we should have had. You know, he's actually been to our study sessions twice, I believe. And we've also had a meeting with him uptown twice. You know, and I think those are good questions to formulate. I mean, those are good questions to ask and be a part of. You know, and that's why I thought, I liked the other day. You know, it gave everybody a chance to say, if they wanted to, they could have asked and said whatever they want. I appreciate Augie being, I know he was always comes in, but I appreciate him being there from a county clerk's perspective and said, hey, here are some concerns that we have. You know, that's why I tried to make sure that everybody, the department heads and elected officials, had a chance also to come and say, how does this interplay with you? You know, I think that's.
yeah, it is a little cold in here.
I'm cold. I was impressed with the knowledge that he has. You know, anytime you ask a question, he had a good answer.
Right.
Well, his
Beat around the
attitude was
bush
good.
about it.
I had nothing, it wasn't it was a positive attitude, and I
right.
think he came off well.
But I think if we have questions, I think those are good things to ask him. I mean, we're paying somebody to do stuff.
I mean,
Let's see what we're getting paid, because that goes back to your original question.
I suppose the reality of it is our insurance company, whoever insures us ought to be asking what size buildings,
Well,
what.
if we give them information,
But, I mean, when you insure your home, don't they wanna come in and ask you what they're insuring? Or do you just throw a dollar amount on it?
And they have kind of generalities,
That's
what I
just what-
found,
well, I know
especially
that-
property
they do.
and casualty, they have generalities, like the issue, do we have one truck, did we trade that one out? Sometimes they really don't care that much about that,
Yeah.
you know, or if you have
Unless you got a
this.
loss. then
Unless
they-
you got lost, that's right.
Exactly, you know, so you have that.
well, I think we had something at the airport that when they went and looked, we had something there that they didn't know we had, and it wasn't insured, but
Right.
since then we've got.
Right, and that's why I think a part of our human resource part of that is, who cares? Feed them that information. Feed them that, in any of our departments, in any of our elected offices, in any of our heads, or even the ancillary parts, feed them that information, because that goes a long way, hopefully, toward the risk management part of our county, and that has the best chance of helping our property and casualty.
Augie was a good example. It seemed kind of, what I took away from it, one of Augie's people gives them information, they turn around and then give it back. They're just kind of another lump in the road that really didn't, I mean, one of Augie's employees could communicate that to the insurance, to Rita, we really didn't need and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just.
That was kind of the impression I got, and I'm trying to figure out,
By the way, the tort deal, as far as that fund you love, that can pay for an appraisal. Okay, that's loss prevention.
I mean, and that's.
So, I mean, that's
something
just
to talk
a,
about,
yeah, I mean, just
Well-
because you asked me.
at the very least, maybe somebody needs to have a chat with our insurance company, basically Rita or whoever, and say, hey, could you give us a 15-minute presentation on what would happen if the ESDA building blew up? You know, how are we gonna get compensated for that? So that the people making the decisions, and this really doesn't have that much to do with Travis, but still, are we adequately insured?
Well, I hope that does have something to do with Travis,
Right.
because part of what we're paying them for is to make sure that what other people are bidding is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
The only way
I mean-
we're really gonna know the answer to that question, quite
Oh,
frankly, is to have an appraisal.
Yeah.
And I don't mean a typewriter appraisal.
I thought you
mean,
meant gonna have to blow up first, but I like your idea better right here.
No, I was actually being serious.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna have to, over the next year, decide on this next budget year, whether we're gonna take some funds and get where we need to be. That's the ultimate answer.
Well, big-
And then that can be updated if you have fairly relatively easy, on an annual and a biannual basis,
Right.
just by computer programming. Because they'll take your area.
Construction
and-
costs are up
Yeah,
5% this
well,
year.
could
we'll
we-
raise it 5%.
could
And that's
we
kind of
make
what they've
Yes.
done. You know, in all honesty, in all fairness to Diamond Brothers,
Yeah.
that's what they've done, and that's in all fairness and all honesty to
Well,
Bushu, that's what they've done.
Let me ask you a question. So you're under the impression that Diamond Brothers knows how many squad cars we've got?
They got it pretty close.
That-
They got it
I'm
close
just
enough
using-
for them.
Right, if
So to
Rita's
speak, they got it
communicating.
close enough for them.
So
Right.
each elected official, Augie and Jeff, and those guys can say, here's what my department, here's what I've got.
Right.
Augie goes, well, here's what I've got, but this is very valuable to me, and it's. that type
More
of-
on larger thing. I don't
Yeah.
think
Rita-
that computers maybe probably doesn't fall in that category, but a larger items does.
Because if Augie's office caught on fire and he said, well, I lost 8 computers, they're gonna know what 8 computers cost. And they're just gonna take his word for it that he had 8 computers.
Well,
Well,
we could
hopefully that's a
produce
part
the
of
purchase.
yeah, and hopefully that's a part of what you're doing is you're building that stuff. That's why, as important it is to send that or make sure that Diamond Brothers may have that or Bushu basically has that. If they are the builder of your base, then they need to have that because Diamond Brothers may not always be
Right.
the
You're
only
right.
bidder in the place.
You're right.
So I mean,
Ross
that, I
is
mean, you
keeping
need to
some of
have
that stuff.
you need to have somebody with a centralized location. As I think really as good as Diamond Brothers has been to us, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years and 3 years. They may not be. So
Right.
that's either your advantage or disadvantage, and also some of the I think the crosshairs that develop because they may not want to share all their information with Bushu. There's a comfortability level, but whoever it's Bushu or whether it's, Mike and Associates, if
Right.
whenever they go to bid that out, they also need that information. Because you're not just bidding
Somebody
like
could
to one
beat
person.
Diamond Brothers out and, right.
Right, and it doesn't do us any good if Diamond Brothers has all that information.
Right, right.
So it's a play, both of them, so. What else? Any other questions on insurance while we're at that? Sorry, let's do the thunder a bit. Okay. The other thing is, I was gonna ask about building and grounds, because, that was like a full day activity, I felt like. What is a plan, or going forward, what's a plan for all the storage that we have everywhere under the sun? Do we have any ideas? I don't know who we need to talk to about that, how to get rid of some of this stuff. I mean, you're talking about, and all it's doing is growing. When
I was
look
very
down there and-
disappointed in the front of the Kreckman building. When did that become a storage area?
Yeah. Well, that's one example. I mean, it's got that, you got
Oh,
all
and then down in
behind
the
there.
basement? Oh, good
And then we go down to
Lord.
the bottom of the courthouse, there is storage, and some of that I know you have to need. I don't know if needs to be a
Darn it, Andy.
plan, and I think since Andy and I stayed on the tour
kind of
most all the day, we're
Nosy
doing that
Andy?
to Mike. He wasn't with us, was he?
No, nosy
He ratted
Andy.
out on us, I say that's Mike's job, but I'm just saying, just in case you guys don't, I mean, there's storage growing everywhere, including the courthouse, including upstairs in the courthouse, including downstairs in the courthouse. Actually, the county treasurer's office, it's kind of, looks pretty modern in there.
Well,
And
he's
that's
gone
part-
to some extent to get rid of some of the stuff that he could get rid of.
Right.
And I think that's where, I guess, I don't know, I mean, there's computers down the bottom, I mean,
There is
half
just
a room of
election
computers.
stuff down there. I'm not saying it because I don't know all of it,
But
but
I
there
don't-
is more junk down there than,
Well, that's what I wondered, like on.
You'd have to go to departments and say, what is this?
You'd have to see it 5 years ago to really appreciate it, because it's down a lot of it. There was
really,
There was
more.
so much records and stuff up in that attic, and I think they got all of it out there, I believe, in the attic itself around.
There's some
The-
still packed.
They're
in
little
there.
stuff, yeah,
Yeah.
just, they're not.
Oh, no,
it's
but
in the attic.
my concern
Yeah.
was all of a sudden, we don't have to worry about the roof, we're gonna have to worry about that floor.
That's why, and there was that much
Because
weight
it
up
would,
there.
if it continues to grow like the rest of that stuff, and we have a lot of like physical things, like you're saying, like maybe old computer monitors.
Well, out there in the
or
Kreckman
boards,
building,
or
there's 3
and
semi-loads.
And Kreckman
Yeah.
stuff in the back, we could have a heck of a nice storage area if we got rid of the junk.
And what is the problem with doing that?
I don't know, I just
The-
want to bring that out to
You need to
everybody,
make
because not
sure it's
everybody was
junk.
on tour.
We didn't know it
It's not
existed.
being stored to be used somewhere, I
Yeah.
guess that's what I think.
Well, that's what everybody's.
Only,
Tell us what's
the
junk.
only departments that were supposed to use Kreckman were the assessor's office and Don's office. If anybody else has got
Oh,
stuff
there's
out
tons
there,
of stuff.
Sheriff's office.
Sheriff's office.
well,
got some
that
stuff.
wasn't,
And Fred still got stuff out there. I noticed several things that
Well,
belong to
well,
Craig.
But that may be junk, that's all.
That's
It
Yeah.
is. But with somebody just needs to take, who's gonna take the horse by the reins here?
I'd say since you didn't finish the tour with us, you are.
well, that's a building committee issue,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Now, there are
And
records
you
out
can't
there.
appoint, can't you?
what happens is when a department head at the courthouse says, gosh, I don't need this old filing cabinet because I'm getting some new ones or chairs, and Bob, will you help me? And
Bob's
then
taking them out there.
Bob has just
Which is better than, in all honesty, it's a
Yeah.
big store. It's a lot better than trying to put all that stuff someplace like in the courthouse.
Right.
But I mean,
Yes.
Yard sale.
Well, we
is
could
if
have
you
it
guys-
right there. We
I
don't
guess
have
what
to-
the point is if we find out, maybe we need to check with Mark, I don't know, maybe Bush you, to see if we can
Have a
literally
yard sale.
have like a
Jeff has
yard
the
sale
authority
or,
to do that.
you know,
Right, Jeff could run an auction. He auctions all county property by statute, and Jeff would. And,
Not Jeff Floyd.
and it probably this doesn't need to be decided in the next day or two, but somebody needs to go out there and get to call Augie and say, Augie, I found stuff that belongs to you. I'm just using an example.
Yeah.
Or Donnie, I found something that belongs to you. Do we need to save it? Can we shred it? And then we're gonna have to contract somebody. You guys realize all the stuff in the courthouse basement that can probably be shredded?
I don't know. That's where you have to
I
go
know.
back to the state of Illinois and say, what can you get rid of
Right.
and what can you
Vital
not get rid
records, you gotta
of?
keep
That's
them,
right.
and ever so many, some records have 10 years, some of them 20
There's
years.
actually a statute that
Some
tells
are
you all
forever.
that.
Yeah.
It's-
Right.
And like
So-
all those records of the judicial, of the probates and stuff in the bottom of that thing, I don't think you're ever really gonna mess with
Well, there
that.
were warrants for some guy I saw back.
1909?
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean, and I don't know that historically, you ever wanna get
I
rid
didn't
of
read that
those.
far.
Because if you have that big storage space in Craigman, if you cleared out all the physical junk, not just the paper junk.
Bumpers,
Yeah,
But the
tires.
physical junk, you can stack that thing,
I
you can
know.
put shelves in there, you can.
But somebody's gonna
That's
have to
huge.
physically do that, and that's gonna cost. It's not
I
gonna
mean,
be.
we don't have people out of the jail that wanna do that for fun of it, just to get out.
Every
there.
time I suggest using inmates, I get shot down, you know? But I think that's a great.
Anyway, I didn't mean to start another whole thing, but that's one of the things I think
Yeah.
we found. And not everybody's on all that, and probably all know it, but
Well,
just in case you didn't.
Some of us have
it's
never been
everywhere.
back there, Alan. That's the
Yeah.
first time you've been back
No,
there,
it's-
wasn't it?
It's everywhere. In
That's what-
Craigman, I've
that's
been back
something
there,
this
that's what it looks
summer,
like.
warm weather, we
Huh?
can
Can you guys work on getting rid of that?
do that.
I guess that's what we're saying.
Whatever,
Is it
find
okay?
proper procedure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I just wanted to kind
The
of
simple,
throw out
that's
there.
the
that-
simple answer is to
Yeah.
have the committee look at it,
Okay.
and dispatch what they can.
Okay.
Okay.
If Bob has to
Round
hire
three?
some
No.
temps for,
Yeah.
All right,
Also, I had something else here while we were going through that. Oh, on this $25,000 grant, I'm trying to figure out, is that a building and grounds? Is that a sheriff? Is that a county? Where's this at and
Yeah.
where's it going to?
Yeah.
Okay, and who, because, if the sheriff's crew is doing that, Bud Porter aware about this also, because it originally, I thought, came from an idea, that's why I tried to get back or send around to the guys. When you came in one day and you were talking about possibility of the jail, and this was gonna be the precursor or the forerunner maybe of that, I thought that's where it initiated, or that's what rang a bell in my mind. That came up, so that's what I sent to Aaron, and he sent me something back and about some information. Where is that? What is the scoop there? I mean, do like Andy and Mike have to worry about that? Is the sheriff just doing that? Is that the sheriff's committee? Is that the board as a whole? Can we get
Well, I
more of
think-
those?
No, I think, what was his name?
Rob.
Rob was working on it. He's no longer employed, is that
Yeah,
correct?
he's still here right now.
Hmm?
He's still here,
Oh, okay.
but not a lot longer, yeah.
But he was the one that was working on that for us, and I assume Jill Wood,
Yeah,
on that 25,000 I'm talking about, no. Well, and of course, it's 8.5 million too, if we can get that, but, or however much.
we, in short order here, there's a grant opportunity that we thought, that Ben and I thought would be worth, investigating. And since the county highway department is active with grants, and we were active with Coles County Regional Planning, and we were active with the USDA. What's that, Jeff?
nothing, I'm just wanna hear where we're going, that's all.
Keep going. No, you're right.
I don't know how to
I
make
would-
it short.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
No, this is
Because
important,
this is,
$25,000 potentially.
especially for the
I-
three of
I-
us, so we kinda have an idea, because we don't know what we're supposed to do or not.
Yeah, I'm not trying to
So,
talk too much, I'm
no,
just trying to
you're
be as
fine.
clear as I can. The USDA and the Coles County Regional Planning are two players that could probably help the county get money for a jail. That's it in short. The highway department, Ben hired me. Ben's been with me for 6 years, and Ben understands that there's, having helped on the courthouse, the highway department, the county board has, Ben particularly, has enjoyed a relationship where they asked the highway department, can you help a little here? And if we are able to help on something that we're doing anyway, such as we're at Coles County Regional Planning talking about grants, anyway, Howie is our representative. The community facilities opportunity presented itself, and Mr. Jennis thought that it would be a good idea for us to inquire on that opportunity since we're over at Coles County anyway. Coles County Regional Planning and USDA, in mine and Ben's opinion, were probably a good place to see if those two outfits could help us. And the response from both organizations was absolutely. That's where that's at. And now, I sent a very clear email to Sherry Landon at the USDA and said, hey, see the community facilities grant opportunities come up again for its annual solicitation. It was advertised in the CFR. I said, I can't remember my exact terms, but would rehabilitating or rebuilding or making repairs to the county jail be eligible for that? More importantly, would you guys be willing to fund a study to determine what's the best next step on doing anything with the jail? And she said, absolutely.
For both issues? One is a
There's- I think
restoration,
there was
and
three, yes.
rehabilitation, and looking at the whole thing.
And new, yeah, just a,
Okay.
and
That
Arnie
answered one of
Johnson,
my questions.
Arnie Johnson, who worked on the courthouse,
Right.
I developed a little bit of a relationship with him back in '09 or whenever that was. And there were comments like, and I'm just being broad, I'm not gonna drill down too much, do we even need a bell tower on the courthouse? You know, is the bell tower gonna stand on the courthouse? You know, once you get $1 million worth of bell tower built, what's it sitting on? Does it all need, it's a facilities master plan is what it is, a facilities maintenance and master plan. And Arnie said absolutely, that it wouldn't have been a bad idea to have done that. So as it relates to the jail, I have offered through Ben to extend highway department efforts to take the horse to water is the best way I can say it. To say, hey Sheriff Wood, we don't want to get into your nest or into your business, but Coles County Regional Planning and the United States Department of Agriculture may have an opportunity for you. And since you're a new sheriff, if you'd like any type of help or coaching at all, if you want to call it that, we'll make ourselves available. That sound comprehensive? Yes.
I have a question. As to the 25,000 that we keep throwing around here, while we're doing the other thing, can we apply without having to do a facilities
Sure.
grant to get 25,000 bucks on the short term while we're doing the other things? And how realistic is that?
Oh, I would suggest, and I'm not a county board member, so I gotta be careful not to say things I shouldn't say. I would suggest that any money that you can grab a hold of be applied towards coming up with a plan. Because I'm built that way. I like to plan first. But it's also obvious that if the roof's falling in.
Right.
And if there's a chance to get 25,000, you're torn. Like the roof's falling in.
While we're doing the planning and doing what?
Go for both.
Yes, and
Yeah, I was telling-
when we left the sheriff the other day, he was going to, as I understand, Carl, correct me, and
Mike,
Mike.
that's my name.
that he was going to, we told him to go after the 25 for the jail.
We had a
That's where
committee
we left.
meeting the other day, and we decided we wanted the 25,000 to be used for
Jail improvement.
Sure.
And that's what I was asking, the restoration, revitalization. You
I don't
can
think
use,
that's the same, though, yeah.
but I thought you just said you can use that 25,000 for those type
Oh,
of
yeah,
projects.
my understanding, and I've kept myself.
And I know
in
you wanna
business.
kinda like, you're looking at the broad picture, but I think our question maybe, can we use that 25,000 in your opinion?
Sure.
And I thought you asked her that, kind of that question.
Oh, we asked
For
for-
this,
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
like doing whatever we want to at the jail.
I think you can ask for CF money for anything. I
Right,
think
Rob and I
jail-
were with her that day at the jail, and she basically said, Jeff goes, can we use it for cars? You can use it for cars, you can use it for radios, you can use it for anything you want. And I think what makes us a good candidate for it is our economic situation as far as we're poor.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
We have to specify something, don't we?
And
That's,
but we
that's
got
what
some-
I was gonna say next. You can't just say we wanna spend it on the jail. I think you're gonna have to say, here's what we got to, exactly what we have to spend it on. Do you understand it that way?
Yeah, again, I behave a little differently.
Okay.
I think Sherry said, I suspect, I wasn't there, that Sherry said it could be used for a whole host of things.
Right.
In general.
Yeah.
But I work differently. I focus on what I'm trying to accomplish. I read the grant guidelines, and what the grant money's for is community facilities. Community facilities. So could you buy a loader or a dump truck with it? Yes.
Yeah.
Could you buy a squad car or a computer with it? Yes.
Okay.
But I think the way you, personally, just a personal opinion, nothing more, I think that our county jail, I always try to think if I'm on a selection committee. And if I'm on a selection committee and Edgar County comes to me and says, you know what, we need a jail. And come take a look. I have a feeling that we're gonna be towards the top of that pile.
Okay.
I also think that 25,000 can be given to LMI, low moderate income places. I think USDA would give 25,000 to poor people to use however you want, too.
Okay.
But man, for whatever it's worth to you guys, I think you should focus strongly on getting an architect or someone like Artie.
Something you may not be aware of is that we're going to
Sure
go to
not.
Denver
I've heard
to
that.
a seminar, and it's gonna be the chairman, and it's probably gonna be the sheriff, and it may be the treasurer, but it's free.
Sure.
And poor counties come out there and say, look, we want a $20 million facility, we don't have any money, we don't have any way of getting it,
Right.
blah, 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 and they say, well, here's what we suggest you guys, after they do look at us and interview us, they say, here's how you guys need to go. Here's what everybody else did over here, it didn't work, don't go down that path, here's what you need to do. When you wanna do this, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, a year from now, you tell us, we'll tell you what the probability of that is. And I think what you're saying is, that, you know, if you want to spend it for planning, we might want to go out there first before we spend $25,000 to plan on how we're going to build a jail when they may have already done it for us, but,
Well, I suggest you ask for a grant to pay for the planning, yeah.
okay.
Well, but that, you'd rather use the 25 for an architect, because we can't afford an architect
No,
right
I
now.
agree.
But we have some very up close, I mean, we just got a jail report that said we've got things we've gotta do. We don't have a lot of money to do those.
Maybe you guys ought to go for both. It sounds to me like the board's desire is to maybe try both, and I'd support that.
You think they
When
give
you
us two
say
different
both,
grants?
Well,
I've
I don't
only
know
heard,
what you
I've
mean.
only heard one,
I've only
More
heard,
than-
which is the
more than one
25,000
grant
grant to apply for.
And that's
When you
my,
say
I guess that
both,
was
what's
my
the other?
question, my
What's
question
the
was,
other?
can the county apply different aspects of the county
Yes.
for more than one grant?
Yes.
That's what you think so?
Yes.
Oh.
See, that's what my,
Oh.
You think that is? Because I didn't understand it that way. I thought
Yeah,
it
I
was
don't.
25 grand for that entity.
For
Well, I
one
mean-
poor county apiece, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Do I think that if the health department and the highway department both submitted grants and was competing against each other, do I think that maybe is a good idea? It shows that you guys aren't talking. You know, the board should prioritize, but maybe the highway department wants to go after CF money for a new roof, and maybe the police department wants to go after CF money for a new car.
we wanna go after $25,000 to work on the jail.
Okay, so it's pretty clear.
That's
I
what we
think
want.
that's what the consensus
I mean-
is like the basic stuff, right?
Right, for now.
For now.
And I think, I
And we
don't,
need to get it done. What do we need to do?
That's why I was
Let me-
doing,
let-
I wanna know what we gotta do.
Okay, the application. Now, these guys from Coles County, the development, do they do that?
absolutely.
They fill out that information and will help us, they'll fill out the grant?
Yes.
Okay, I
How
didn't
much does that
understand, I thought
cost?
you had to get your own grant writer.
You have to talk to them about that, that sometimes they'll do it for the grant admin. Sometimes they'll do the grant.
Now, how, I'm just curious, they are government employees, correct?
Coles County Regional Planning Development.
They're
I
not?
think
I
that
don't
comes, it's underneath their county webpage, so I don't know.
Well, see, I thought they were government employees. I thought they will actually fill out that information and help you apply for
I
it?
think you should ask CCRPD, yeah, I think,
Okay.
yeah, that's what they're
That's
there
where
for.
where
That's
my
their job.
confusion came in. Is who helps, because I looked at the thing, there's a lot of things on there that I have no idea how to fill
Mr.
out.
Chairman, what committee is handling this? Is I think what, back to Zuber's original, Mr. Zuber's.
Call me whatever, Jeff.
Alan! I couldn't remember
I've been
Mike's
called
name,
once.
so what?
I understand that.
Or the building committee, was working on that.
No,
Right,
right,
but
Sheriff's
that's-
committee was working on it.
That's what I was trying to figure out, who, and that's what we're,
We'll give it to Carl.
Okay.
well, no, but I mean, I just wanted to have some clarity on it, because no, we really hadn't talked about it, but then in our meeting,
I think all we
I know
have to
that
do-
you guys
I
talked
just
about
wanted
it,
to boil
because we
down
talked
to
to the sheriff
25.
later
How
on.
we get to
Then he talked to
25
us
now?
about it, and
Helpful
then
time to
it
submit.
clicked in my head that came up originally, I thought,
That's simple.
when you talked to Aaron one
Right.
time, and I thought, there's like all these parts going around, but I'm not sure that it's ever really been talked about as a group before.
Okay.
So that gives an idea. I think that our consensus is we just want the
We wanna get
25,
the
if we
money.
can get it,
Yeah.
for our basic needs right now
Right.
in the sheriff's department to make
And
it
we
look a
worked
little better.
out
and
finding
do
other
stuff.
sources for the other things that he needs,
Yeah,
and that's what we did, and we went through that process.
right. So you think, your
Sounds good.
plan of attack, Aaron, then is to go back to Coles County, or have Bobby go
Regional
back to
planning.
the,
If, yeah,
Robert?
Ben directs it, if, I assume it's Ben. See, my relationship is, the county engineer's been with the county chairman.
Okay.
And Ben directed me to look into that for him as the county chairman. I did that. Coles County Regional Planning and USDA are both aware of what the chairman directed me to do.
Okay.
Both of those two agencies are.
now we know who's in charge of this, boys.
Well, it's nothing but a fact finding. Nothing but fact finding.
Okay. At this point, nothing, we've got the information we need to proceed at this
It
point.
sounds like you do.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would suggest someone on the county board be the liaison for Coles County Regional Planning,
Okay.
other than Howie. So like, cause they might say, well, are you gonna use it for locks or roofs or
Well,
lights?
see, and that's
or
what now, that was the day I talked to him with Rob. They're gonna want to know, I mean, they're gonna want to know, here's what we plan on spending $25,000
Well, I think so.
And that's what we asked Sheriff to come up with.
Okay, and he said we're gonna spend on the building, now you're gonna have to be more
Yeah,
specific and say, we're gonna put.
with Andy, now he only talked like 2 or 3 things, and they were in general, because we were over there after you guys
So-
said that, and it was like, most things I've ever dealt with, you don't generalize very much on there, you better have,
Yeah,
some
I
things
need locks, and there's
Yeah.
$10,000 worth of locks, there's,
right,
I mean, I think you're gonna have to put down exactly what you're gonna spend it on, then we'll,
Yeah, I think you're there. I think all you gotta do
Sounds
is.
like it's,
Okay.
you and Carl need to figure it out.
so,
Whatever.
so then, oh, well, is Ben the liaison then, or what?
Ben, are
sounds
you gonna
like
remain the liaison, or are you gonna
Or does it
turn
make
it
any
over to
difference, or
somebody
is Coles
else?
County, or is Rob doing this? I guess I'm still confused on that.
It's the sheriff and Ben that were, as far as I know, if Ben has delegated that to, the building and grounds, is that what's happened?
No, it sounds like it's the sheriff.
Okay, who
Yes.
needs to do what? Do we need to have Rob contact them to find out what we need to do?
Is that what the sheriff wants to do?
Yes.
Then yes.
yeah.
Okay, so
All right.
the sheriff needs to contact Rob and get whatever, he's gonna work through the Coles County to get this 25,000 grant, what,
Yes.
the paperwork done.
Yes.
That's what I need to know.
Okay,
I'll see that that gets done.
Okay.
And then we can work on this other, applying for architect and, the big picture plans.
Can,
Yeah,
can
you wanna
we,
direct that at the same time?
can you try
I
to get an
suggest
answer
you do.
by our next meeting?
To what?
That the paperwork's been sent in.
Yes.
because I do believe, from my understanding, it's a first come, first served. I mean, they got X amount of funds, and when that's depleted for that year,
Yeah.
they'll do it again the next year, but then your money's done for the year once they've awarded
I'll
it.
contact the sheriff today and have him get a hold of Rob and get that paperwork going.
Had him, send me an email, how reason,
Okay,
Oh, that's right,
he's gone for a week.
yeah.
All right.
it's father-in-law.
got it. Next.
I may have more stuff.
Yeah, you may have more stuff, Carl.
Well, I want to go to executive session with Aaron, so.
Okay.
I gotta go to work at noon too.
Well, we're gonna have to move on.
Your report's going almost an
And
hour
once-
so far.
and Once again, people with Z's were at the tail end of everything. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I reserve, can I have that, reserve the right to take my additional 10 minutes at a later
Okay.
date?
Did you, make that as a motion?
I make a motion, we go into closed session to discuss employment, compensation, discipline, performance, dismissal of employees of the public body.
Do we have a second? on that?
Second, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to go into public, or into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And
Right.
it doesn't put us in a jam when we're walking out there and say, I guess we're not getting that, and it's like, oh, we're not.
Well, and you have explained certain risks that
Yes,
certain,
sir.
we have to get this to
I did it
this,
to you, sorry.
but never a payback,
Did you get it?
you know, issue,
Okay.
so.
Can I get you guys to vote,
Well,
please?
We,
You can't vote on
Can't
that.
vote on
Can I
this.
get a straw poll here?
What's it gonna cost us to continue this, I guess? That-
Well, no,
that
I
would be my
think,
big-
I think you've already pulled everything. I mean, you can do whatever you want to, but from my standpoint, you've already pulled everything as of right now.
But
We're
I
live
think-
on TV.
Yeah, I elaborated a little differently a few minutes ago. I said that I'm still trying to beat a square peg in a round hole.
what are you asking us?
I'm
What is
asking
the
you guys,
question?
Do we wanna go ahead with the
do you guys want to,
Mary's Edge?
To look at it.
do you want to continue exposing us to the risk involved with doing that project?
Is that different than going ahead and exploring what might be done?
Right. I guess
There's two different questions. Or do we wanna go ahead and expose ourselves to the risk, or do we want to try to put something together a different way that might,
The risk's always gonna be there.
Well stated. Yes,
But not as much risk.
correct.
All right. I mean,
More
from
than
my
we expect,
standpoint,
but
I'm
not-
willing to go ahead and look into this, not at the level of risk at this point. But if you can figure out an alternative, lower level of risk, then we might be interested. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
To me it does.
Have you got a lower
Yeah.
level of risk?
I can take you from $1 million of risk to 750 or something, you know? And we don't, either way you look at it, it's really high level thinking and risk taking. You guys have to decide if you want to expose us to the risk.
I'm done with it. Me, that's my side.
You're saying forget it.
Forget it.
If you've
more
gone
risk
from $1
than
million
you
to 750, that's still an element of risk.
750 we haven't got.
I don't know that we know.
And for the value
I
of
don't
what
know
we're
we
getting
have.
versus that,
I don't know what we
Because you'll
have.
spend money maintaining it.
Yeah, you're gonna, right.
Before Jeff said two things, let's follow Jeff's leadership here. He said,
don't do that, we'll get screwed up.
he says there's two things. One, the board's not comfortable with this risk at all.
Right.
At all, that's clear. But two, do you want your county engineer to explore if there are any other ways to get the square peg in the round
absolutely.
hole?
yes, as long as you don't
Fence.
obligate us.
Right.
Any other way to put it back, there may
That's
still
yes.
be some, and then, if there's still exposure, then we can make, but I don't know.
But you'll probably say no, but you want me to go ahead and keep looking.
Something
Yeah.
might develop.
but I-
750,000 risk's not a problem for you.
Well,
No,
it becomes a day labor investment, just so you know. We're gonna spend the majority of our money in day labor. I would recommend that we follow Jeff's suggestion.
Good, now Ben's gonna be pissed at me.
Why?
No, I'm just saying, I don't wanna accept a $750,000,
No.
neither, I don't, but I'm just saying, can we put it together another way that you haven't thought of yet, that might be acceptable?
Not till he thinks about it.
Well, we don't know, maybe there's another federal, we
Right.
can involve the feds in a different way that you haven't
What I
thought.
told IDOT and what Robert was supposed to tell Howard, or Harrington's, I'm asking Harrington's to donate right away. There's $30,000+ of commitment, is that a good word?
Okay.
If
and
they've
then-
got some money in the game,
Right. And then we build our portion, the day labor portion, which anytime you do day labor portion, if someone buys half, you're basically just tying up your forces and your equipment in a certain place, greatly reducing the risk. So instead of seal coating, they're building out there, but you're paying them anyway.
But they're gonna be doing it one way or another. They're gonna be spending that money one way or another.
Not quite that much, yeah. The answer, no, I can't say yes, no, not that much. And then I've told IDOT, we hold a separate, key phrase here, a completely separate federal job as Harrington's prize for staying there 5 years. And that's what OP&P is hearing from the Bureau of Local Roads right now. We have to figure out some way to make it his problem instead of ours.
I think we need to get more information. I feel like we need more information without even, I still think still don't think we have enough information to make a decision on this. We've already said by not doing what we didn't do last Monday or Wednesday, we've already left it there. It's where you wanted to leave it.
Correct.
So now, I feel like, anyway, for me, I need more information based on our discussion here of a lot of things, of whatever you think needs to be in your global plan, you know, in your global idea on this
I like the
project.
spider web.
Is there,
Yeah,
is
I
there
mean-
a time limit on when the bottom drops out and you can no longer get any of that?
It may have already.
Okay.
I don't know. It's very fluid and dynamic.
Right, and you have a lot of different things in the air on this, I understand that, because I actually thought, you said at one time, again, when we lost off of County 1, or Highway 1, I thought that you thought we could recoup that amount that we were, that we couldn't use. Basically, we're gonna let County 1, Highway 1 kind of go down for a while, but we're gonna use that money for this.
That's correct.
And then I thought there was another spot here, but I don't wanna go into that again. Just from my standpoint, I need more information.
Can you build a new scenario that has the risks and the positives and then represent it to us at some point?
How about the negatives too?
What did I say?
Positives.
I meant,
And the risk of.
and the risks.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
especially the negatives.
What do you want to do in the interim? Because there's stuff that happens almost every hour on this. When Scott calls me and says Denise will entertain other options, or what
You're
people are
looking at it,
looking for is a
aren't you?
leader.
Aren't you looking at that? Right now, aren't you looking at
Well,
that?
you're not
They
obligated
treat me
until we
unilateral.
vote on it, so you
Yeah.
can do anything you want, you can say, until we vote on it, you can come back and say.
So
Is
for
it gonna,
30
is it gonna
days.
be too much for you to?
No, it's gonna be 30 days.
You
If
throw
you
down
need- you need us to meet next week or the week, well, the week after, we will anyway.
Throw us out an email and let us say, hey, they called me today and
Right.
said this.
Yeah,
We can have a meeting.
Okay.
I think we, well, not maybe all of us, we all like the project. I don't
Right.
think that's the issue. We just don't like the
risk.
exposure on it.
Right.
And I figured you wouldn't. Ultimately, I figured you wouldn't.
We figured right.
Right.
Okay. So it sounds like I made a good decision, but just in a very poorly handled way.
Well,
Okay, so it sounds
onward
good.
and upward.
So next road and bridge meeting, I will, let you know if there's something big comes up, then I'll try to call for a special meeting.
Right, and we can have a road and bridge
I mean,
2 weeks from now,
Yeah.
because we're gonna have our other meeting
if you're
anyway.
gonna meet at 9, I don't, let it say, hey, we need more time, let's go come in at 8:30, 8:30.
Do it at 9, push the other one back.
Yes,
That's what you have
do
to
that too.
Just for.
Well, we can do that from now on if that's what we're gonna have to do.
No, it's gonna get real slow.
Yeah.
This is the last. You won't need me but once a month for half an hour. Very, very
So we
soon.
need to consider maybe meeting each time.
Whatever you wanna do, yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying. it won't
I'd
be
say
this-
that, that chairman of that committee.
Oh,
he
for
could do
crying.
something like
All
that,
this
couldn't he?
money's going.
All right, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'd second that motion.
That's one of the-
I second that motion to adjourn. You
Has
made
he
it.
given his
Yes.
report?
Huh?
Has Jeff gave? Yes, he did. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I think-
Do you have anything, Augie?
No, I don't.
Okay.
You sure?
Positive.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?